Welcome to another edition of the Sim Racing Garage. I'm Barry Rowland. In this episode, I'll be reviewing the new flagship custom sim racing wheel from the guys at Cube Controls, sporting a very nice Ultimate Game Tech 4.3-inch display and enough controls to utilize its generous feature set and satisfy most racers' needs. This kit includes the new suede leather-covered custom rim design from Cube Controls. Time to put it through the SRG's review process and see how it does. So, let's get to it. So let's take a closer look at this Cube Controls GTX wheel. This is their flagship steering wheel. And mine came with everything that you can get on it, including the 6-paddle cluster on the rear of it. So we'll talk about that when we get around to the back. But first, let's talk about the front. First thing, this is a wheel has a bit of heft to it. It's 3.7 pounds when I pulled it out of the box, which is 1,675 grams. Yeah. And yeah, it's got a good substantial feel. It has a good stiff feel to it. There's no perceivable flex in this when I'm trying to twist it. So that's also a big plus right out of the box. Now, as I understand it, this rim on here is going to be available as a standalone product from Cube Controls sometime in late December, first of the year, somewhere in that, maybe even time for Christmas, who knows. But this is 297 millimeters from edge to edge here. I would call it a 300 millimeter wheel, which I think is a nice sweet spot for driving. If you like to drive GT cars, you like to drive the open wheelers, just about anything you can use this wheel for until you get to the oval stuff or until you get to the dirt stuff, right? Then you'd want something, obviously, like a rally wheel that's more round so you can grab on, more areas to grab onto. Now, this is a good idea for them, I think, to produce this wheel because this is a very good feeling wheel. And it's covered in suede leather. I'll give you a look at that up close. So it has a nice suede leather on it, which gives you good grip when you're driving with gloves. The ergonomics of it is very good to me. And I've had a lot of wheels in hand, and this is one of the better ones that I've had in the SRG as far as something that you pull out of the box. And of course, the first thing you do, being an analog being, is interface with your wheel. That means grab it, right? And see how it feels. And this just feels right. It has just about everything that I personally like in a wheel of all. And of course, you know, I've tried a lot of different steering wheels through the years being here at SRG. And this is one of the standouts for the grip. As soon as I grab it, it just felt very comfortable and almost at home, if you will. It's got some nice cues here, I think, that allow this to happen. It's got this, I don't know how well this is going to show up, but there's a ridge right here. I don't know how you're going to see. Maybe right there's a good shot of it. But there's a very sharp ridge that comes up from here and then goes along this edge here, goes down towards the bottom. And it's a very pronounced ridge. You can almost see it that way, I think, better as I turn it that way. But what this allows you to do is your thumb just goes right into that ridge when you're grabbing the wheel. And on the back, we have enough, keep my fingers off the screen up front, we have enough rollover here that also feels comfortable. Maybe a little deeper would have been nice, but I'm not going to complain too much because there's no perfect wheel. But this is one of the ones that are getting very close for me personally. But then again, it's a very subjective thing at the end of the day. Somebody with really big hands might not feel the same way, or they might, who knows. Now they also have this little accent here that's got a little groove right here, a little lump sticking out that captures the back of your hand here on the wheel rim. So when you're grabbing the rim, you can feel that. I can feel that holding my hand in that position. And of course, we have the hook up front on the top that keeps your thumb from flying off the top of it. So just one of those steering wheels when you get it in hand. Yeah, I really like this. I could see myself using this rim on other wheels or with other button plates, actually. That's just how good it feels to me. But then again, that's subjective. And anyway, so moving on, the buttons and of course the dials, we have a lot of them on this, and we'll go with the buttons first. Now these are these don't feel the same to me as the other Cube wheels. They probably are, but it's been a while since I've had one to mess with, but they have a nice tactile feel to them. They don't just press and bottom out. There's actually a click to them that you force through with your finger. So you have to press down and then it clicks as it goes down. So that's a nice feature instead of just a button that you push and nothing happens. Obviously it works and it actually makes something happen, but yeah, you're just pushing it and you're not getting any tactile feedback from it except where it bottoms out. This is different. They click actually. don't know if you can hear that. Anyway, so yeah, it's got a nice feel to it. And they have stickers on them. And the stickers come in a sticker sheet I'll show you in a little bit. And they are lit. And these are different colors. I believe they're red and blue. And maybe even green. But we're going to see that towards the end here. I'll plug it in and show you guys what it looks like. Yeah, so all the buttons feel pretty good. Now, the ergonomics as far as reaching the buttons are good down here. If I'm down here on the wheel, it's easy for me to roll my thumb back down here and get any of these. And it's easy for me to get up here and get these two. Now, these guys on the top of this display, they're going to be a little bit harder to get to. And maybe you use those for page or for something that you don't use that much. Or if you're going down a straight and you've got time to adjust something with those buttons. But yeah, it's not an easy reach, as you can see, coming off here. Even though you can do it and still have some hand connection up here on this part of the rim. But yeah, it is a bit of a reach. You have to move your hand, right? But yeah, all of them are the same as far as tactile feedback and what they feel like. Now, the buttons have these shields on them that Q Controls has on all their wheels. And they're kind of a raised piece in there that is got an angle on it. So you've got a lower part and we've got a higher part on the back here. And the reason for that is so when you're rolling your thumb off of to find the button you want, you can actually go past the button or not hit the button like you want to. These little grooves in here or these raised areas keep your thumb from going anywhere. So you're going to get the button every time. That's initially what I thought they were for, and some other people have confirmed that, yeah, that's the way to do it. Plus, if you're in VR and you have shields like this on different buttons, you can locate your center button because you can't see them, and then you can go down one to know where that button is, and then up one if you're going to reach way up and get this one up here, or the same thing down on the bottoms here, right? So it also helps locate which button is which, because it's always a higher raised area on the first button and then lower on the second button. So that's enough for the buttons. The encoders, these are very nice feeling units. I've been using them already, and they have very nice detents to them. They're deep detents, nice stops, but not so hard to turn that you can't turn them, but not so easy to turn that when you go for two, you get three. I don't know if you've ever been on with an encoder that does that. You know, they just turn too easy, and the detents they don't have enough definition on the detents that you can't really feel what's going on, but these you can. These are definitely good quality encoders. They feel like that. All of them are the same, obviously, on all four of these. And the ones up here, they feel like they might be the same too, but I really can't tell. But when they also have very good detents, I can hear that. But very good detents and easy to reach from your thumbs here. These thumb encoders, obviously, they need to be easy to reach. But they have I can go 2, I can go 1, 2, 3, and I can feel that pretty easily. I won't get confused. Did I go 3 or did I go 2? When I'm using this, because again, the detents are very definitive in these encoders. I really like that. Now, the knobs themselves, they're aluminum units, and we have 3 black ones here. We have a blue one up here. You can see they've actually put a blue sticker up there to match it. And yeah, they're not real sharp on the edges here on the grip, but again, still no issues as far as being slippery or anything like that. Even once you get sweaty hands, of course, I would recommend that you use gloves on a suede leather wheel, so you'll have gloves, and gloves usually grab things a little better anyway than when your hand gets sweaty when you're racing. So yeah, and these over here actually have a sharp edge on them, thumb encoders. I don't know how well that's going to show up, but I can feel a sharp edge. Not sharp enough to cut you, obviously, but it gives a nice grip when you want to use that encoder. So it's always a positive engagement when I was driving this wheel with that encoder. The 7-way switch down here. We only get one. I'd like to see 2. I always, that's 14 moves if you have 2, but you're going to have to take just one with 7 moves, I guess. And of course, you push on this, and it's a button, and we can turn it as a dial, and we can push it left, right, depending on which way you're looking at it, your orientation. I'm looking at the camera, so that's my left and right, and up and down. Now, if you notice something here, I don't know how well you're going to hear this, but when I push down, there's a click on this. Right? But if I push up, nothing's happening. It works. I've already tested it, but it works. But there's no click. And the same thing going over to, I guess you're right, if you're looking at it in the video, there's no click there, but there is going left. Doesn't affect the performance, but yeah, it's there. And the encoder on this is very sharp little detents on it. And again, pretty easy to tell what you've done. but they're very close together, as you might imagine, rather being such a small encoder. Good feel on the knob. It has that same kind of sharp feel that the encoders up here for your thumbs have on them, on the ridges. So very positive engagement. Only thing here is, you see how the shield is around it? I've got little fingers, and I can get in here and grab this. Of course, if I was driving, I'd be doing it with this hand, but it's pretty tight in here from my top finger and that part of the shield. I would have rather have seen, because you have an encoder in here and not just something you're pushing sideways or pressing on the button, but you're also got to get in here and turn the thing. Yeah, my fingernails actually kind of getting caught up in that ledge right there on that little shield. I'd like to see that shield cut down further. In fact, if this was my wheel and I was going to use it every day, I would probably take something and shave that, just cut that down a little bit and take that piece off. Just whatever I cut off. Because, yeah, I have little hands. So somebody with big fingers is going to have even more problems. Either that or get the knob to come out further. Because here we have plenty of, you can see on these encoders here, see how far these knobs are sticking up? We got plenty of room to get our fingers on them. But this one, because of the way the shield is here, yeah, it's a little tight in there. And it's just something that, to be mindful of if you're looking at a wheel like this. It's just one of those little things that, when you're first looking at it, you're not really thinking about it. But once I've started using it, I could see where, yeah, it's a little tight in there. So I might even say something about that again later on in the review. Right. The aesthetics are obviously a very good looking wheel. Now, this has a big 4.3 inch UGT screen on it, and that's sticking up in the middle here. And I saw website shots of that, and I wasn't sure about the whole aesthetic of that. This big screen sticking up like that with these buttons on it and all that, on all the LEDs. But in person, and again, it's hard to convey this on video or pictures. We're in a 3D environment in person here at SRG. It really looks pretty good when you're looking straight on at it. And when you're actually in the car racing with it and the screen's lit up giving you information, it looks pretty good. I was worried that, I might not like the way it looked. But yeah, it really comes together as one unit and just all converges into one unit that you're using as a tool, really, at the end of the day, when you're in races. Right. The carbon fiber here, we have a 4mm piece of carbon fiber on top of the steering wheel. And you can see they have their logo in there. And you can see how thick that is. See how deep that is. And of course, they've got looks like some kind of enamel paint or something in there, in their logo with their cube. And of course, the Italian colors, right, for Italy. The carbon fiber on here, on the other plate, is the exact same thickness. And that's the front plate back here that holds everything together, obviously. And yeah, so not much else to see on the front here. Now, I'll show you a shot of the screen working here before I finish the closer look segment, because I've got some cables there I'm going to plug into my laptop. And we're going to talk about that stuff because it's part of my closer look. Yeah, it's a great screen, as you might imagine. I really like this, the ultimate game tech screen. The 4.3 inch. It's very crisp, bright, under heavy lights or bright lights. And you can dim it. It has a lot of controls. I mean, this screen, the software that controls this screen is very feature rich. You can do a lot of stuff to it, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. All right, so let's move on to the back. Here we have a large aluminum housing, which gives this wheel a lot of structural integrity. This thing is stiff. And when I had it on my Bodner 54G Cole Morgan motor at full torque, yeah, using it in anger, as they say, in battle, yeah, no flex at all was detectable. I got a lot of good tactile feedback from my wheel, and that's what a nice stiff wheel will give you. Not too stiff, though. There's still enough flex in the rim here that it makes it feel like a real wheel, because I've had some wheels that were all aluminum. Everything was aluminum, very stiff, but almost to a fault of being too stiff, if you can imagine that. This is a nice housing. Like everything on this wheel, Cube Controls does a great job, and their CNC work, it's always, every wheel that I've gotten that had like the enclosure and stuff, very well done stuff, just very professionally presented. Of course, we have the Cube logo on the top there, silk screened on. Got another one on the back here, and you can see the little patterns that they put in here that kind of match the patterns in their hubs. You can see a little hub attached back there. And you also can see down inside that hub, there's a plug there. And that plug is for attaching a harness wire if you're going to get or use their QRX quick release system, which is this guy, right? So it's got a little wire in the back that you can actually plug into here, and use the pass-through and plug it into the wheelbase side quick release instead of plugging it in here. So you can do it either way. Or you can just run your own quick release and do whatever you want to do. But that is a feature that's on there. And again, very nicely done here. We have two sets of holes here. We have 70 PCD and we have a 50.8 PCD. And they are alternating threaded and non-threaded. Let me get you a look at some of the threaded there. Where's my threaded ones? Here they are. All right, so there's the threaded ones. Should be pretty easy to see that in the lights. And then right next to it up here, we have a non-threaded set of holes. And that's depending on the application or what you're mounting to, that can be very useful. But you're only going to have 3 bolts in here, which typically is enough. You know, I don't know why I like to run 6, because 3's always gotten the job done when I needed to do that. But I don't know, it's just me. All right, so again, aluminum housing, very nicely done. CNC machine, you can see the bevels all the way around. And when I did the look inside segment, this is a super tight friction fit where these encoders go in here. Oh, well, you're gonna see that. But the encoders slide down into the housing and they're attached to this. And you'll see that in the look inside segment. Same thing over here. They slide in there. It's just such a nice friction fit on everything. It's so well done. Where's the one? There it is. The clutch bite point knob, which I forgot to show you when we were looking at the front, but you can probably see it better back here anyway. This is the knob we're going to use to adjust our clutch bite point when we do that segment, and we'll be doing that in car. So yeah, again, same knob as the blue ones up here. Yeah, they're blue. And very sharp, but not sharp enough to cut you. So it's a very good grip on this. And a very stiff knob too, by the way. This just reeks with precision. It's just, you know, something very smooth. There's like minimal lash, just like the rest of the encoders really, but it's very smooth. You got to have some lash or it won't turn, right? But yeah, very nicely done here. Right. Let's talk about all of these levers back here. We've got 2 levers on the top, and these are just literally switches, right? So you can use them for anything. And I ended up using them for paging up and down through the screen, right? I was going to started out using these, but then I realized, you know what? When I'm driving and I'm shifting like this, and then I can just reach up and page like that, page up or down on either side. So yeah, very convenient to put it there for paging, but you can use it for whatever you want to. Just map it wherever you want to in game. Next to that, we've got these shifters. And this is a whole new deal, this shifter from Cube Controls. I keep trying to prevent myself from putting my fingers on there. Now, if you look here, they've got these cool little, here we go. Should have my pointer out for this so you guys can see better without me sticking my fat finger in there. All right, so check out this bearing. It's kind of like a sealed bearing in here, right? You can see the little bronze erases. There's actually ball bearings in this piece that they have here, which is something new for them. And they also have it in the clutches down here. See there? You can see it also, right? And they actually have it labeled on here. I don't know how well you're going to see it, but this is, of course, contactless. It says contactless down here on the bottom. You see it in there. And then if we flip it over upside down, it says ball bearings. Got to flip it upside down for that, though. And, of course, on the end there, we have R spec, which is whatever their R spec is. Race spec, I suppose. I guess that would work. And we have a little Cube logo in here. All this is aluminum. This part, the major part of the housing, and the lever itself, where the magnet is aluminum. All right? And it's got a bronze little stop down here. And we have carbon fiber on the sides. And you can see there's a little slot there in the carbon fiber. We can actually adjust this up and down for making adjustments for reach. And of course, the carbon fiber paddles themselves are no less than 5 millimeters thick on all of these. Very substantial, very nice feeling. You get a nice firm click when you're shifting. There's not much travel, if you can see. It's not moving very much. But I'll tell you what, when I was using this, the tactile feedback was very, very positive. And I have no complaints about these shifters. Now, I did have somebody in here with bigger hands that was driving it also, and they said that when they went for the shifter, that their finger would catch underneath that a little bit. And I had thick gloves on because nobody brings gloves at SRG, so I got a bunch of them in a box for people to use. And yeah, we're kind of thick gloves, though, work gloves. And he said, he noticed he hit when he went to go get the shifter, when he was driving, reaching for the shifter. I didn't have any problems at all. And there is an adjustment here that you can do on the paddle itself. You can see how far you can adjust it in or out. So again, and this is adjusted all the way outbound or towards the back. so it doesn't adjust any further than that. So there's nothing else I could do as far as trying to eliminate that. So that's something else that you want to think about on the shifter. But I didn't have any problem. And of course, I went to another button plate that I have also and get him to do the same thing, and he had the same problem with that one, and I didn't have a problem on that one either. So I think that maybe he's just used to using a paddle that was way out here somewhere, and just, you know, this is a little more compact, and it didn't bother him as far as using it. He just noticed that. He said, well, you know, it's a great shifter, but I'd like to have a little more room back there, because, you know, we get used to what we get used to, what we use to race on all the time. Right. So what else are we going to talk about here? Just good looking stuff all around the back on these levers. They're just very well built. And, you know, a flagship model like this that comes in at $1,670 shipped, you would expect nothing less. Now, the clutches down here, probably the strongest clutch springs I've ever felt in a wheel that I've gotten. These are stiff springs, which I thought I might not like. Of course, once I have gloves on, it's a little different, you know, as far as when you manipulate these clutches. But this is the bite point clutch over here, so we're going to snap that one out and then use this one to let the car go. So this will get us rolling without spinning our wheels. That's what dual clutches are all about. And then we can modulate here. But I think the stronger, when I was using it, I found that the stronger spring pressure actually made it a little easier for me to get a better release. Kind of like on my Supermoto motorcycle, you know, when I let the clutch out, it's kind of stiff. And yeah, it's just one of those things that when you first pick it up, you go, well, that's pretty stiff. But then when you're using it, it comes together as, yeah, okay, I'm glad it is that stiff. Anyway, so these work fine. I've never had a problem with that. We're going to show you a segment, obviously, of me setting the bite point and doing some launches in I think it was in a Renault 3.5 car. So yeah, everything is just so well done here. And again, we would expect this, right? And of course, Cube Controls is very good at presentation. You can see this is, to me, this is a beautiful setup. Now, you don't need all these paddles. I mean, you could just have the shifters. And it costs less too, by the way, when you get one without the clutches and without these levers up here. But yeah, you can just get away with the shifters and have no problem. And yes, just like I said, I don't have anything to complain about when I look at this. Of course, this is the USB. This is the same USB port that they use across their whole line at Cube Controls. A little screw off thing here. It's got a little seal on it. So if you get, there's a moisture barrier. I don't know how well it works, but it's there. And then we have our multi-pin plug in there. I think it's 5 of them. Yeah. Little 5 male plug pin in there, right? And while we're talking about that, let's go ahead and set that back here. This is the other cable that will connect to that. And of course, it has 5. And you can see the little red rubber seal inside of there. I kind of like these. You know, they're plastic, and I've heard comments about, well, they're just plastic. But, you know, they get the job done. And of course, they have nice color coordination with everything else. But I mean, I don't have anything to complain about. I like metal better myself, but, you know, they get the job done. I mean, it comes down to personal preference, really. It's something like this. And, of course, we have a USB-A. This is a very thick cable. It feels very substantial in hand. It has a smooth finish to the coils. And I usually kind of stretch a cable out when I first get it, just because, oops, I'm going to break the wheel for it. I get to use it again. So, yeah, I usually stretch them out a little bit just to get that new tight coil loose. And plus, it gives you a little more room to play with when you're attaching it to the wheel. And I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the wheel. And these are coated. See on the plug here, see that little white dot? There's also a white dot on our plug back here. Where is it? There it is. A little white dot on there. So you obviously just match up the dots, plug it in, and then we'll just tighten it up with the little ring there. And it's attached. Very easy. And this guy kind of stays out of the way because it just kind of lays around and flops around down there. And also, this wheel, if you notice, is very flat on the bottom. See how flat that is? I kind of, like I said, this wheel is really, when I've took it out and I've been using it, is really growing on me. I think they're going to sell a lot of these rims once they get these. It's rim only when you buy the rim. And I think they're going to be selling a lot of these because this is a comfortable wheel. It's a good size, 300 millimeters. We're starting to see more wheels like that at 300 millimeters because people are demanding that. You know, we're tired of the 270 millimeter formula car wheels that, you know, they're so cramped sometimes when you grab them. And even a little guy like me, I like a wider wheel than just a little one like that. Of course, some people love them. So, you know, it depends on who you're talking to. We have another cable here. This one has a little USB-A on one, and we got 2 USB-As on the other way. So what this is for is you have to plug this into 2 USB ports, right? Because the buttons on this are lit. So that requires more power than just this Ultimate Gaming Tech display draws. It draws 5 volts, no problem. But now we got these LEDs lit up here. So we're going to have to give it more power, and that's what this is for. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug this in. I don't have 2 on this side, so I got to go over this side on my laptop. So we'll go ahead and get these guys plugged in. And we'll go ahead and plug in this part, and we should see the wheel come alive. Did I break it? No, I didn't break it. So there it is. And you can see the cube controls in there. Now, I don't know how, I guess you can see the lights pretty well there. So we've got red down here, and we've got a blue on top of that one. Of course, that's the blue knob over here for our 7-way. So there's no blue light there. So that's kind of cool. They put a blue in there to match the knob over here. Then we have the green and blue up here, and we have more red ones up here. So because of these LEDs in these switches, or the buttons rather, then yeah, it takes more power to do that. And just for the heck of it, I'll be doing a little segment showing you more about what the screen can do. But just for the heck of it, we'll take a look at we'll run the test data screen and let you guys see what this thing kind of looks like when it's running, like that. And I'm getting some reflections here and stuff, but when I was running this wheel live, and you'll see that in the driving segments and maybe a couple other segments I was doing, but yeah, this is a very bright, crisp screen. I don't know how well this is relaying on the video, but very bright, very crisp, and easy to see. And there's a lot of information you can do here. I don't know if I have this page button mapped on this one or not. No. Yeah, see, I didn't map the buttons on this one, but I'll show you some of the screens that you can do here. Let's get this so you guys can see it okay. And again, we'll get into more detail later, but yeah, there's a lot of screens that we can actually plug into this thing. There's one there. Is that my data screen? No. I want my data screen. I think that's 9. Let's see. Yeah. And this is like just a quick demonstration of the information that you can get off of this thing. It can actually map other drivers that are in the race with you and give you their splits, if they're in their pits or not. It'll tell you, how far ahead of it they are, and just a lot of information. So this becomes more of a tool. Now, of course, for VR users, all the VR guys are going to comment, well, I don't need that because I'm VR. It doesn't do me any good. And you're right. But, sometimes VR, you miss out on some of the cool stuff when it comes to sim racing, even though it's great immersion in VR, obviously. This is it turns into a tool at the end of the day, and not just a fun wheel to have, but something you can use to actually get temperatures off your tires, if, of course, game supports those features. But yeah, this I like. I really like this UGT display. It's better than the other display I had a while back. I think it was a Z1, because it ran off of software, off of Windows. And this is all done internally in a microprocessor that's running this actual display. And of course, memory and everything else that's in there. So anytime you can run it off of hardware instead of a software application trying to run things, I think you're better off. At least I've had better experiences with that. Anyway, so there we have it. The GTX wheel from Cube Controls. That's our closer look. And we'll just go ahead and get to our next segment. So I'm going to go over the display, the UGT display here, Ultimate Game Tech. The first thing you want to do is download the software, and I'm going to pull up the website here for that. And put in UGT, and display comes up. And we'll go to their site. And you'll have a place up here. Then, of course, it talks about their displays and everything they can do and all the great stuff about it. You want to go down to the UTG Manager and download it. So I'm going to download it over here, and that gives me my links to do that. I've already done that. But while you're here, I'm just going to briefly go over how to get this thing up and running again. So you want to do some layout downloads, all right, while you're here. You might as well do that. Create a folder and go get some layouts. And you can see, if I scroll through here, these are different layouts already available. So all you have to do is download them, load them onto the display's memory or wherever they store their data, and then you can run these. And you can see there's a lot of different displays in here. You can also, of course, customize an existing display by duplicating it and then making some changes on it, or just create one from scratch if you want to, but I'm not going to get into that kind of detail. But you can see all the different layouts that are already available to you. I think most people will probably be able to find something for whichever car they're driving that'll get this done for them, or take one of these and modify it if you want to, right? So that's what you do. I would go in, and you have to download these one at a time. I couldn't find a folder. So you see it highlights or kind of grays it out when you click on it. Now, if I go down here and I want this layout and I click on it, it'll ask me, where do you want to put it? And you can see I've got a little place here on my wheels under the UGT display layouts, and I've downloaded a bunch of them. And then I uploaded them to the wheel after I did that. And I'm not going to save this because I already have it. So that's where you go to get your layouts, right? So pretty easy stuff here. Now, the one thing is, now once you've done that, you're going to want to come back to the web page to get the guide. There's no PDF that's downloadable for this, so this is where you do it on HTML. Now, you could download the HTML, all the content on this page, and of course the links to other content, other pages, and just run it on your computer that way if that's what you want to do. But yeah, once you learn it a little bit, you probably won't be up here very much anyway. All the settings here talks about your main screen, your mapping settings, layout generator, stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about that as we go along. Now, I've already got the software loaded, so I'm just going to click it over here and bring it up. And you can see up here it says not detected, but it's going to communicate with the wheel over our USB connection, and it should sync up with it. And it says up here synchronizing. And if everything's good, it'll load the wheel, or load everything it needs to into the display on the wheel. So what I usually do is just do a test data piece here. I'll just push this start test data on layout 1. And you can test all of your layouts that you have if you've loaded them, all right? And you won't have but a few when you first get the wheel. You're going to have to load these, and it does take a while to load them. It's not a speedy process, but you can get it done. Just sit back and relax and just go have lunch or something if you have like 5 or 6 to load. But anyway, layout 1 is the default one that comes with the wheel, and if I click on that, it'll start sending test data to the display, and we can verify that the wheel is working as it should. First it loads the layout, then it starts cycling through and testing the layout, and you can see all the things that are moving and different counters doing different things. If you let this sit here long enough, it'll actually start populating other things like a simulated lap, last, best, things like that. But we're not going to do that. Now, I can also test other layouts. If I do a drop down here, let's say I want to test layout 9, which is really data information on lap times of me and other people's in the session. And there we go. You can see if there were other drivers in here, then I could see what they were doing also. See, everybody's in the pit but me. The next thing we're going to do is go into global options and map some buttons so we can page up and down. And so there's some other options you can do also with the buttons. But first I'm going to go ahead and stop our test data. And I'm going to go up to global options here and global mappings. And I'll just click on that. And you can see this is where the mappings are available for different features. Shift light mode, different things that we can do as far as, do you want it to go all the way across? Do you want to go it from side to the middle? There's a lot of things you can do here. I'm not going to talk about every one of them. And different ways for the flags to blink, that kind of thing. Optimal shift points blinking. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. But what I'm really interested in is being able to page through my layouts when I'm in the car. And that's what I'm going to concentrate here. I have page up and page down. Now the trick here is to make sure that you have the right device selected to do these controls as far as mapping. And I'm going to go ahead and first just cancel out of this and go into up here where it says input devices. Now, UGT Race LCD V2. Okay, that's the device we want to pick. Now, there are other devices here, as you can see, and I don't want to use any of those as my input. I found that really the best way to do this is pick that and unplug all the USB devices in your computer except for the wheel. It just makes it simpler. There's no confusion, and it works every time. It's just when I had like my pedals and my shifters hooked up, it would try to map to my pedals instead of, even though I'd selected this UGT input configuration. So anyway, you can see that if I have this over here and I go over here and do some buttons, things are lighting up and things are happening. All right, so that's what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And now I'm going to go back to my global options, global mappings, and for my page up, I'm going to click on this and it will turn yellow or green, and it says select which input you want. And I'm going to use the E up here. Now you can use anything you want to, but I'm going to use the E button. I think what I ended up with finally was the levers over here above my shifter paddles. Because my hand's already in that position, I can just pull up and pull a lever, right? But I'm going to use the buttons for just display purposes here. I'm going to pick E. Well, you see it timed out on me. Let me go back and get it while I was talking. It will time out on you. So I selected that one. Now I'm going to go down to page down, do the same thing, but use my S button. And it looks like it took that. Now I'm not going to mess with anything else, even though I do have some things I've been playing with here. I'm just going to click save. So now I'm saving it, it's reading the files, synchronizing all the changes that I made. And now I'm going to run my test data again. And I should be able to go and use the buttons now to page up and page down. Remember, E over here was my page up, so I'm going to hit that. And you can see I'm paging up through my displays. And if I want to go back the other way, instead of having to cycle all the way through, I'll just do this and get back to where I was. There it is. You can see I have a compound option in there for tire wear percent. If your game supports that, that will be there. So it's cool that you can do that. But I think I'll probably end up with the levers back here, but we'll see how it goes as we go through this. So that's the different layouts that we can page through. And depending on what you put in as your layouts is what you're going to be able to use. And again, we can just cycle all through. I think I got about 6 of them on here. Something like that. Yeah, I think that's the original right there. So that's how we map the buttons to different things. Very simple. Global options, global mappings, and just make sure, again, to make your life easier, that you don't have any other USB devices plugged in, like your pedals, things like that when you do it. And because you're probably only going to do this one time, you're not going to be changing it much. Once you get the layouts you want on your wheel, you're probably going to be just sticking with it. Right. So we'll go ahead and save that one more time because I opened it, and it'll go through the saving. It stops everything, goes through the saving routine and the synchronizing routine, and we're back. Okay. So let's talk about the layouts real quick. I'm going to go to the layout page. There's media managers here where we can load different pictures and things. If you open that up, it's got a bunch of different pictures for whatever you want displayed on the screen. And you can actually manipulate a little bit and put your own pictures in there. Cube Control has their picture on it, as you saw when we started. So that's just another option that you have. We can go into layouts. And this is where you probably do most of your layouts, is in the layout generator. And I'll open that up. I might have to, there it is. Okay. I don't know if I had to stop it or not. There's the loadout generator. And this is where all your options are for what you want to do. And as I go over things, you can see things are moving when I move my mouse. So I'm not going to go into this in detail. It's just way too much stuff that you can do here. And just suffice it to say that if you want, you can go to create a brand new layout, a completely blank one. You can clone this layout, which if I was going to make changes, I'd probably use an existing layout and just make changes that I needed in that layout. So you can clone the existing one and then make changes on that and leave the original one alone. You can delete the layout, save layouts, so forth and so on. And these are all the elements that we can put in. And we can change the font under the item characteristics. We can go into label characteristics. I mean, there's so many things that we can do here. Change the colors. I mean, just so much stuff. And it takes a while to read through all this and get it to where, you know, it'll work for you. But again, I'm just not going to go into the details here. I just downloaded the layouts, took the lazy way out, and loaded up the layouts into the wheel, and then it had the information that I wanted and had enough different layouts that I could page to a layout that had the information that maybe another one didn't have, and you're done. But yeah, if I ran this all the time, I would probably go and maybe tweak a couple of them. But anyway, that's where you do it at. I'm going to close that. Layouts also, of course, every time you close, it's got to synchronize with the wheel again. There is a, where's the emulator? There's the emulator. And this shows us what's going on, or should be going on the display. So if I go in and start test data again, you can see my emulator up here is doing the same thing. See if I can get it down here. You can see where the wheel is. The wheel is doing. And if I go over to the page and switch, you can see it switching in the emulator too. This is just another way to see what the display should be doing if you're not looking at the wheel directly. I suppose that's what this is for. All right. So anyway, we'll go ahead and stop my test data again. And I'm going to go back to layout generator, close that out, because the emulator didn't have a closeout button for some reason. All right, so that's pretty much all I wanted to go through here. So now we'll just go ahead and get to the next segment. Time for our look inside segment for the Cube Controls GTX wheel. But you know, before I show you this, let me show you this, the wheel itself. And you saw this in the closer look, obviously, but now we have a cleaner look at it. when you can see better angles on it when it's off of, obviously, the button plate back there. And again, this, I said in the closer look segment that they said this is Alcantara on their website. It was listed as Alcantara, but I thought it was suede, and it turns out I sent an email and asked, and it turns out, yeah, that is suede. I thought so because, man, it smells like leather, and I've never seen any Alcantara that smelled like leather, and it feels pretty good, grip in hand. And again, I really like this wheel as far as the grip. It's just one of those that suit me really well out of the box, but that is subjective, and for some people, that will not be the same or hold true. I did have someone that has bigger hands than I in the SRG driving this wheel, and he liked it too. It seemed to fit him well too, as far as what he was telling me. So yeah, I think this is a range grip, if you will, as far as covering different grip capabilities of bigger hands, smaller hands, things like that. But yeah, again, still subjective. But oh, by the way, they'll be making this wheel as a standalone wheel sometime in December, they said, end of December maybe. So you can actually buy this wheel and put your own button plate on it, which would be very nice. They probably sell a lot of these because this is a good feeling wheel. And it probably won't have, obviously, these two big holes on the sides here that accommodate our encoders on the front of this button plate. Anyway, now let's look at the module. Here is a custom circuit board, and you can see the logo there for the GTX steering wheel. And we have some modular connectors here, Molex plugs. The bottom ones down here are for our clutch, 2 clutches. The middle ones over here are for our shifters, and the top ones are for those 2 levers on the top of this particular version of the GTX wheel that I have. So this is the ultimate gaming tech display on here on the front, as we discussed before. But they, instead of just buying the display and putting it on the board, mounting it to the board, and then wiring their stuff to it, Cube Controls went out and manufactured their own circuit board just to integrate that UGT display into it. So there's no back to it. The back is the Cube Control circuit board, is what I'm trying to say, in the long way. And that's pretty neat that they did that, instead of using, you know, the one that you can just buy right from UGT. And a lot of other people will be doing that. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but it's nice to see a professional look finish to it, the whole board integrated together as one unit, supporting everything. So yeah, I like to see that. And again, this is meeting the expectations that I think a $1,600 price point brings to the table. Now, I've seen some wheels a little more expensive than this one that didn't have this kind of goodies inside. Very neat, very tidy, you know, industry level stuff that's just, again, something that, as you can see, anybody would be happy to know this is inside of their expensive wheel. And just well laid out. I couldn't get any branding off of the encoders here, although they do feel quite good, as I said before in the closer look. They have a nice detent, firm detent in them that allows you to use your thumb to turn it one time easily. And if I want to get 2 real quick, 1, 2, I could get that without going to 3. So it just has that feel to it that's comfortable for me, that I know that I can use this in the heat of battle and be accurate with it if I need to. The potentiometer down here to adjust the clutch bite point is very tight. It has a lot of stiffness to it, which I like. It gives it that quality feel. Very, very tight here. Yeah, no wiggle at all. Again, a closer look, I think I said that, but once we have everything apart, it's easier to get your fingers on things. And yeah, just a really nicely laid out system here. And on the front, really, we've already saw that in the custom look, or rather the closer look, not the custom look. And these encoders here, again, they're all surface mounted or surface soldered to this board itself. And they feel really good too. Only thing I found when driving the wheel is that this piece here, the shield that they put around the 7-way, when you're trying to get to it with gloves on, and even with my fingers here, you have to, you know, it's kind of tight in there. I would like to see this not be here, or something very low all the way around, like this height here, all the way around it, instead of so tall in the back. Because when you're grabbing it and I'm trying to use it, I can still use it, but you can feel this against your finger as you're trying to get in there. And I've got a little finger with gloves on, even with gloves on, it's not that much, but somebody with big hands or big fingers is not going to be as comfortable using that. So I'd like to see that taken off and just left level all the way around. Just those things that I think about when I'm driving it and doing my reviews. So let's flip this back around carefully. And this is that front plate that we saw on there before. Again, it has and we didn't see this on the wheel, and this is one of the reasons I showed you, because we saw it on the plate, their logo, and it's done the same way. But yeah, this is a 4mm thick piece of carbon, very nice weave on the back, no defects anywhere. Just all throughout this whole wheel here, everything is just top level stuff. I haven't seen anything that I didn't like or could call into suspect and say, well, I'm not sure why they did that. Right. Let's look at the housing. This is what gives us our structural integrity to this unit, and it's obviously quite well done. It's a big piece of aluminum, and it's been obviously CNC machined out of a single piece. We've left some standoffs up here for attaching the wheel. Very strong. They're thick. You can see how thick they are. They take those M5 type threads, and we have a couple of one here and another one over here as a pair. That's for mounting the carbon fiber front face plate on here. And again, very sturdy bits there. We have two more pieces that have holes in them up here and over here. And of course, they are also tapped for the threads that hold the front plate on. There's only 4 screws holding this whole plate on here, but the tolerances are so tight in the manufacturing here that when you slide the plate in and you have an encoder over here and you have a slot for it, and you have one over here, another slot over there, and we have one down here for our bite point potentiometer. When you slide this thing together, it just fits a very, very tight friction fit. So it doesn't take much to hold it together, in other words. Plus, we're also bolting a steering wheel to it using 6 bolts to bolt this to the whole unit, the steering wheel and the plate and everything. We've got 3 screws that we can see sitting on the top of our plate here in that triangle, but we also have another 3 underneath that when you take it off going into the same thing. So we have a total of 6 M5 bolts going to every one of these gets a bolt. So very nicely done there. And yeah, just very neat. We got nice wiring done here, the Molex plugs that go into the circuit board Molex plugs, the females on that side. You see we have the 3 screws here holding our hub on the back. So if you wanted to run a different hub, you could by removing it. I wouldn't. I mean, it's a good hub that they already put on the wheel. And I could put my own wheel side quick release on here, no problem, and then run my own quick release. Although during this review, I was using this quick release system from Cube Controls, right? But same thing, you can put whatever you want on here. So yeah, is there anything else I want to talk about? This right here, the aluminum knobs, very nicely done. Not real sharp on the edges, but enough grip there, I think, to grab pretty well. And another curious thing about how they built the whole wheel here, is they're using torque bits heads screws all the way through, even in here. This little teeny guy here is a T6, very small. And I had to really dig into my drawer of small pieces there. Which one is it, the T6? Oh, here it is, one of these guys, to get this off. And it was on tight too. So I had to pull these knobs off, obviously, to get the wheel apart. But yeah, nice aluminum bits, very well done annotations. There's no flaws anywhere. Again, meeting the expectations, I think, that we're setting for a wheel at this price point. Got all my screws over there. I guess that's about it. We've seen everything we can see on the look inside. I mean, there's not a lot to see when you have a circuit board, well laid out circuit board layouts. Oh, one more thing. There is you guys, I don't think you can read this under the lights, but there's the microcontroller board, and it's a microchip brand board, and it's a PIC or PIC 18F96J94 for those of you who are interested in that kind of thing. You can see our little ribbon going from the display itself back here behind the board and coming out and attaching to the board there. So you can disassemble that. But you can even see here on these screws here that they are Torx bits all throughout, instead of regular hex, what you'll typically see hex types of wrench screw heads. Anyway, curious. Right. Well, it doesn't matter which side I put it on, really. This is an anti-static pad here, so no danger of hurting anything from static discharge. So that's about it for the look inside. Yeah, we just get to the next segment. Now I have the QRX quick release mounted, and I have a separate review on this quick release, so you guys can see all the details about it, how it operates, how you shim it and do all the other stuff, the pass-through, the USB pass-through. But that's a different video that I did for this unit here. But this is how we're going to be using this wheel with this quick release. Now, I might be using later on a different quick release system with it, I don't know. But right now I'm going to be using this system. So it mounted up pretty easily, as you can see. It's a cube control quick release, so I didn't have any issues, obviously, mounting it to their wheels. So yeah, we'll go ahead and, now that we have this one here, we'll go ahead and mount it to the rig and see what it looks like. Now we have the Cube Controls GTX mounted. And I'm using the Cube Controls QRX quick release for this, and you can see I have the cable coming out of the wheelbase side quick release. So we're using that pass-through feature that's available through here. And we're going to be running this on the Kollmorgen 54G of the SimSteering 2 system from Leo Bodner. I'm going to put some stress on it that way. Everything's running good. Everything's working well. If you watch the segment where I did an overview of the feature set of this Ultimate Game Tech display, you know that I had originally put the buttons when I was doing the button assignments there, mapping buttons, that this would be my page back and or page down and page up button over there. Decided to go with these levers here because when my hand is on the grip, as you can see like this, it's easy for me to reach my index finger up there and change it. So I don't even have to look at it. And once I remember the sequence of my displays, I don't even have to really look at it. I can just hit this, and depending on the display I'm on, then I can just page down over here. And we'll go over to the other side. I can do the same thing on this grip, like this, and that'll be paging up. So I can go through all my data and have it right there in front of me. You know, again, when I was doing the closer look, when I saw pictures of this on the internet, I was wondering how this was going to look in person with this big 4.3-inch screen on top of it. And I wasn't sure about it, but I have to say, when you're sitting in this and you're in the cockpit, obviously this is probably not going to convey too well, but yeah, it really does not seem out of sorts at all. It just blends in well. Everything goes together, I think. Let me change to another screen here. And yeah, all that data is right there in front of you. It's kind of cool. Again, it's hard for me to convey that here on video. You have to be in it and running it. And I did have somebody else over to the SRG while I was testing this, and they got to use it too, and they really liked it. They thought it was pretty cool. And that was a VR user. So he says, yeah. He says, you know, I wouldn't see this in my VR hood, but this is pretty cool if you're not using VR. So anyway, there it is, all secured, ready to go. Now all we have to do is get in and do some driving, and we'll comment in that segment also. So we're in the Formula F3.5 Renault, and we're in iRacing at Sebring, and we're going to do some dual clutch adjustments here. Now, of course, you know we have the two clutch pedals here, these analog paddles, and the way I'm using this and the way it came out of the box is the right paddle is your bite point paddle. So that's the one I'm going to snap off and get rolling, and then use the left clutch paddle to slowly engage the rest of the clutch and get a hopefully no wheel spin, smooth takeoff that's also as fast as I can go without spinning the wheels. That's the trick. So we're going to use this knob right here, and this is the bite point knob, and putting it in a clockwise position gives you less bite in the bite point paddle, and bring it counterclockwise actually puts more in. So this is how I go about doing this. So I'm going to leave the bite point out because that's where I want to know where I'm engaging. So I pull in the left clutch paddle and I put it in gear, and I'm going to throttle it, full throttle rather, all the way down like that. So nothing's happening now, and I have the bite point clutch out. So I'm going to dial in while I have it all the way down counterclockwise until I get rolling where I think I want to be. I got a little wheel spin there. So then once you start moving, you have to test it by stopping and just letting it bite point snap out. Now I got wheel spin there, and that's not what I want. So I'm going to take some clutch out. I'm going to try it again. Just a little wheel spin there. So I'm going to take a little more out over here on the dial. Okay, you try it one more time. See, now I'm going without spinning the wheels, and that's what we want. And that's what dual clutch is all about. So I think we're pretty successful here. Now, depending on the car you're running, you might even want to take off in second gear instead of first gear. But I'm going to try that. I'm going to actually put a little clutch back in, just a nudge, to see if it'll spin the wheels. See, I'm just spinning right there. Man, this is pretty sensitive. So I'm going to take it back out a little. That's perfect right there. That's what I would call perfect. So now I'm going to do another start, launch, see what we get. That was pretty good. See how easy that was? So once you get used to this and use one of these, you want to put it on all the cars any car that you start from a standing start in the grid. This is the way to go, because once you have a dual clutch set up like this, you never get wheel spin. So you're probably going to get to the corner first from people that aren't using them, because it's real hard to regulate the clutch otherwise, especially in these cars. So I'm going to do it one more time. So I was just on the cusp of spinning my wheels there. All right, so that's how the dual clutches work. We are at Sebring and iRacing in the Ferrari 488 GT3, my usual test bed. And yeah, what can you say about a wheel as far as the feel of it? It's very stiff, and the Bodner 54 Cole Morgan G can put out 26 Newton meters, and I've got it at full force here to test out the stiffness as far as what it feels like when I'm using it. And it's a very stiff wheel. It passes my criteria anyway for a very stiff wheel. I think they've done a good job with this wheel that Cube Controls is making, and I think it's going to be a pretty good seller for them once they bring it to market. It's just the rim that you can purchase, and the grip just kind of fits my hands right out of the box, gives me good control. All the buttons were easy to manage, never have any problems. The only issue I had is the 7-way switch, or joystick if you will. The shroud around that is a bit tight. I'd like to see that shroud reduced or just flattened out all the way around to give you better access to that switch. But other than that, everything else worked great. The shifters are nice and snappy, great tactile feedback on those, and the upper switches that I use for changing the pages, which you'll see in a minute, also working very good. The real question is, does it give you a feel of good control for the car, and can you save things and catch spins? And here's a good example of that. Here's a little spin catch that I did, and having a good grip on the wheel allows you to recover from stuff like that instead of ending up in the wall or out in the field somewhere where sometimes that's where I end up at. And using the page feature here with the levers the way I have them mapped out here, again, a lot of information here is available to the driver. You name it, you can put it on here. As long as the game that you're driving in supports it, you will be able to see it. So again, when you're driving with this and you're in the heat of battle, it all comes together as a unit in front of you. I really like the visual on this when I'm behind it and I'm using it. It just gives you a lot of information. It's clear and easy to read. What more can you ask for? Final thoughts on the GTX custom wheel kit from the guys at Cube Controls. This is their flagship custom sim racing wheel. My version came maxed out with the 6-paddle option. Right out of the box, you can see that Cube Controls put a lot of effort into producing this wheel. I like the suede leather covered grips on the new rim. One of the most ergonomic for me I have felt in a while. Of course, that is subjective, so others may not agree. Overall, the finish on the wheel met my expectations for something at this price point, with obvious attention to detail everywhere I looked. The buttons are lit by LEDs and have a nice crisp click to them when actioned. All of the encoders had a consistent feel to them, and with minimal shaft movement and solid feeling well-spaced detents. The 7-way joystick also has nicely defined detents, but more closely spaced than the larger encoders. One odd thing I noticed was that the 7-way clicked when pushed in 2 directions instead of all 4. This did not affect performance, but needs to be noted here. I would like to see the button shield layout around the 7-way lowered, as I found it to be a tight fit for my fingers when I was using it. Those with larger fingers will have some difficulty here. Around the back we find 6 paddles. The shifters felt very good, with nice tactile clicks when actioned. They have a trick-looking bearing solution on their pivot points and are contactless Hall effect units, as are the 2 extra levers on top and the clutches. The dual clutch function was easy to set up, and I was able to dial in a good bite point with little effort. The 4.3 Ultimate Game Tech display is a treat to use. A nice crispy clear panel with a generous amount of available features. The internals of the GTX are just as well done as everything else on this wheel, with a custom circuit board designed specifically to integrate with the UGT display's electronics. The back aluminum cover is a very solid piece of kit, with proper reinforcements in all the right places. I also found the fitment tolerances of the back cover to be very close, with a nice tight friction fit with the front panel assembly. Of course, the litmus test for any custom wheel is how it performs in game. Here, the GTX comes together to present the driver with a serious tool, not only for obtaining constant lap times, but also situational awareness of a race's progress, which can be a big help in getting a top finish. I found the new wheel rim to be comfortable for long stints and stiff enough to allow my direct drive wheelbase to transmit a detailed stream of force feedback cues, which allowed me to react in good time to save me during some pretty dodgy situations. Being comfortable with the wheel you have in hand makes the job of turning consistent laps a much easier task. I'm Barry Rowland. Thanks again for watching the Sim Racing Garage channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you would like to help support what I do here at the SRG, visit my website at simracinggarage.com.